Welcome to Stoughton Media Access Cable and the Community Forum Show. My name is Steve Kelley. Today I'm your host, and I have the pleasure of introducing you to Bob Rebello. Bob has a wonderful story about giving and also is going to teach us a little bit about aging. So welcome to the show, Bob.
And welcome to you. Thank you.
All right. So Bob, 7 continents. That's
Yes.
unbelievable. 7, at least, what, 14, 19?
There was 18 marathons in 14 different countries in 14 years.
18 marathons, but 1 on every continent.
Yes.
Yes. And also you've ran enough miles for the circumference of the world, which is...
I ran, my goal was to finish more miles than the circumference of the earth, and I was very fortunate to go over 1 mile, so I did 24,902.5 miles in 14 years.
24,000, so it's kind of like a science show. We're
Yeah.
going to be able to tell all the people,
Yeah,
the young
and-
people,
and,
24,902.5
miles.
And 2.5 miles is the circumference of the earth?
Yeah, there's 2 different numbers, but that's the one I used, and that was between races and training.
Yes.
You know, I would train every week, so it comes out to about 30-something miles a week for 14 years.
Wonderful.
Which is not that much, but when you think of 14 years,
I think it's a lot. It's a lot of running and
Yeah.
stuff. So, but really, I think the more important message. I read your bio, and I thought when I saw the circumference of the Earth, I always like to throw some facts out there that some of us may have forgotten or not been aware of. So I think that's a nice one. But more important is this sense that you committed yourself to a charity from your best friend, your brother. And would you like to tell us a little bit about the charity?
yeah, well, John and I were basically like normal brothers. There were 6 in our family, 4 boys and 2 girls. And I sort of looked up to John, and we had our moments like brothers do, but when John had kidney cancer, he was taking his treatments in Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center in Boston. And when he took his treatments were on a Monday. And I lived in Lexington at the time, and he lived in Medfield. So I would drive from Lexington to Medfield, pick him up, drive him in town, and we would talk. I would sit with him while he had his chemo, and then we would drive home, and we would talk, and I would sit with him when he got home. And this went on for a number of years, and it wasn't consistently every Monday, but whenever he needed the treatment. And in the last 2 years of John's life, they became more meaningful conversations. We would talk about things like what's important in life and what isn't, and we went from brothers to best friends during that period of time. And I don't know whether you've ever read the book Tuesdays with Maury. Have you read that?
I have not, no.
Well, it's a book about a professor who's dying, and one of his favorite students comes by and forgets about him, and the professor takes him through the dying process and what's meaningful in life. And if I would have written that book, I would have written it as Mondays with Johnny. So
Right.
after John passed, I went away for a weekend, and I said, you know, I looked at my life. I had a good job. I was a consultant. I was making good money. I could do whatever I want. You know, I could travel. I was single, and I looked at my life and said, you know, I want to remember my brother John, because he was a good guy. I mean, John was, you know, and he was my best friend. So at that point, I decided that to remember him, I wanted to set up a charity and get money donated to kidney cancer research at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center in Boston, because they were the one that kept him alive with their research for a number of years. And so I figured, what am I going to raise? And I found out that a meaningful number would be about $100,000. Okay. So then I went around and figured out, how am I going to do this? And I figured, well, you know, I'd run 2 marathons at that time.
Yeah.
And, you know, but I was a Marine, so I think I could adapt. And I figured the best way to do would to run marathons, okay? And then I figured out, how many years is it going to take me to raise this money? And I did some research and found maybe I could raise about maybe $7,000 a year, because I wanted the donations to mainly come from average individuals and not companies, major companies. Number one, major company wasn't going to donate to me because I was an individual.
Right.
And so I figured I could raise about $7,000. So that's how 14 years came. So 7,000 times 4, it was about 98,000, 100,000, okay? And then I figured, you know, I was going to do the marathons. And everybody said, well, why don't you do them in the United States? And I said, no, I want to make it interesting for the people who are donating. Because every year they would never know where I was going till I sent the flyer out. Wow. So it made it interesting. And me, you know, it was my money. I paid all the expenses, and I wanted to travel.
Before you go on, how much of the $100,000 went to the charity?
$100,000. Well, actually, I raised $102,000.
Okay.
And you can go on my website, and it lists everything.
What is your website?
It's www.bobrebello.com.
BobRebello.com. Okay. So maybe we can get, our producer might be able to put that up on the board, so if anybody wants to jump over. There it is right there, www.bobrebello.com. And Bob, as you can see from the slide, is a motivational speaker and a nonprofit consultant. And he encourages you to touch base with him at rjreb@aol.com, as well as to call him, 617-943-0968. And I was thrilled to hear, Bob, that you raised over $100,000 for kidney research, right?
Kidney cancer research.
Kidney cancer research and use, I'm sure, maybe drugs or whatever. But all of the money went, and that you used as your tax ID number for donations, you made it direct to the hospital's tax ID
Everything,
number.
It was really interesting, because when I moved out to San Diego, you know, I debated whether to have the check sent to the hospital, but I said no. I wanted the checks to come to me directly so I could see who donated, and I could send them a card immediately, okay, thank you card. Mm-hmm. And what's really interesting, every check went to San Diego, mm-hmm. and if there were a number of checks, I would pay FedEx to send it back. In all those years, I never lost a check.
All right, that's
because I would
a better man than me.
every year, I would, at the end of the year, I would get together on the phone with the hospital, and I would ask two questions. This is how much money I received. How much money do you have on your? So we would balance that. Right. We knew, and so nice. it worked out real well.
And you made handmade thank you cards, and here's one. Maybe you could show this to our camera guy, Leo. We'll zoom in.
Yeah. Well, one of the things.
And this is from a marathon that you did in Bangkok.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
See if you can hold that up to Leo's camera.
Yeah, and
zero right in.
One of the reasons I made my own thank you cards is that before I set the charity up, one of the things I wanted to make sure of is that everybody got a personal thank you card from me, because I donated some charities and basically sometimes never even got a thank you, never won the money. I had 1,197 donors over 14 years. Wow. Every donor received a personal handwritten thank you card from me, and nobody ever received the same card twice.
And how important is that in life? I mean, what do you think drives that sentiment with you?
Well, number one, I felt that people gave me their hard-earned money. I don't care whether it was $5. I treated everybody the same, whether they donated $5 or $500. So everybody got the same treatment. But I think it was more of, to me, saying, hey guys, or ladies, I really appreciate this. And my family appreciates this. And this is something that it's pretty difficult to throw away. And
is that a particular castle, or what would you call that?
Well, this is the Grand Palace in Bangkok.
The Grand Palace.
Yeah. And
did you run by that when you did the marathon?
Well, I actually started there. And excuse the expression, but the Bangkok Marathon, I refer to as my marathon from hell. Because if it was like this black cloud, if something could go wrong, it did. Okay. I pulled a hamstring 3 weeks before the marathon. And my friends told me not to go because I probably wouldn't finish. But people had already donated, and whenever I got an injury, I would just run through it, which was a mistake. I don't tell people to do that, what I did. But anyways, and then it was a 17-hour flight from LA to Bangkok. Fortunately, I had an aisle seat and I could stretch. When I got there, the first 2 days, I was really sick. I picked up something on the plane. Couldn't eat any solid foods, didn't leave the hotel. Finally left the hotel, went and got my number, and then with a day and a half to go. And the marathon started at 2 in the morning.
Interesting. That's kind of unusual.
Well, because I believe it was because of the congestion, the cars that were running, and the smog is, it's really bad. And but anyways, I somehow or other, I got all the way up to mile 23. And then I knew I was dehydrated at that point. So I was in trouble. And the hamstring was so bad that my leg was dragging. And the next thing I remember after mile 23 was crossing the finish line.
Wow.
And a Thai girl putting a medal around me. To this day, I have no idea how I got there.
So you kind of blanked out a little bit and
and
forced
just
your way
momentum, So I've had friends that had the same thing happen to them. So.
Yeah. So it's a very interesting part. So tell us a little bit about the training that you did in order to be able to do these marathons.
Well, I joined a running group right off the bat when I was living here. It was Concord Runners, a great group of people. And there were a lot of runners there. So I would learn from them. Mm-hmm. They would tell me how to train and stuff. And I tried a lot of different things, okay? But I never really had a coach. And it was basically they would, hey, here's how you really should do it. And I'm a type of person, and I would take all that input and then make the decision on what I would do, okay? So over 14 years, I never had a trainer. I would try different things. And one of the things that I really learned from all of this is that, number one, in order to do everything I said I was going to do, I had to run through injuries. And I tell people, don't do that. I mean, I had 24,000 miles I had to make, so I would run through the injuries. I'd take a day off and keep running. But if I was to do it all over again, the first thing I would do is get a coach that was very specific, is on posture and breathing.
Posture and breathing.
Oh yeah, because I had a friend took a picture of me training, and I mean I was bent over,
Yeah.
I had my head down, and I wasn't breathing properly. And if you look at the elite runners, they're like this. Of course, they have no body fat, and you watch how they breathe. It's so. And then the other aspect, I think, is yoga. And my body was so tight that, and I tried yoga, but my legs were so tight I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But I would recommend that people do that.
Wow. How old are you now?
I'm 78 years young.
78 years young.
I'll be 79 years young in May 23rd. Right. And to me, age is a number.
Age is just a number.
It's just a number.
Yeah. So I'm sure that many people that are your age are, let's say, not able yet to go out and do the things you did. What would you recommend to those people? Sort of people that are more restricted, they perhaps let themselves go a little. What do you think about?
Get out and walk. I mean, do push-aways from the table, and and get active. I mean. I'm in Boston every day. I take the T every day. I sold my car, and
Wait! You sold your car?
Yeah. When I left San Diego, I said, it's like when I moved out to San Diego, it was a new life for me. Okay. I was starting a whole new career, and I like to tell people, how many people do you know that did exactly what they wanted to do for 14 years? I did that.
Right.
So when I came back, I said, I want to do something different. I want to have a different life.
Yep.
And so I said, I want to live in Boston or near Boston. So I sold my car. I bought the Charlie Pass.
You just sold your car.
Yeah. And I take the T.
Yeah.
I'm in Boston every day. I'm networking. I meet fascinating people. I'm trying to find a group that can help me to write my book. And I'm trying to set up 2 new businesses. I just put a slide presentation together on what I talk about. Success is a life of meaningful purpose. And I'll be making a speech at the Ashland Elementary School, April 17th. And I'm hopefully going to make one at ASIC store in Boston and Marathon. So I'm out going to make the speech. And if I can help people, to get set up and bring meaningful purpose to their life, I'll do that. So
prior to this period where you adapted yourself to bringing, to having a meaningful purpose. You were 60 years in life.
I was 63.
How was it 63 years in life? What was your first 63 years like? How do you see it shaping your life
well,
and then making this change?
I grew up in a family of 6. My mom and dad worked very, very hard all their lives. But you know what? And they were both factory workers. I could never remember ever wanting for anything. So we had wonderful parents, and we were like normal brothers and sisters. Once I was a BC student in high school. After I graduated, during that period of time, you either got you went in the Army, you got drafted, or you joined a service. My brother John went to ROTC at Northeastern, so he became a lieutenant.
Some people don't know what ROTC is.
ROTC, where you become an officer, second lieutenant. Yeah.
Training Corps, yeah.
Yeah, and he went in the Army. My second eldest brother joined the Air Force, and I joined the Marine Corps, and my youngest brother joined the Army. And when I came home and told my father I joined the Marine Corps, he just looked at me and said, "What do you want? You know, they're tough, you know."
Yeah.
And at that time, the reason I joined, I was sort of a wise guy, and I felt I needed the discipline that I felt the Marine Corps would give me. And believe me, I found out when I went to boot camp. It was like, why am I here?
Yeah.
It's like, but it was the greatest 3 years of my life.
Yeah.
I mean, I went from private to buck sergeant in 2 years, and and it was, I learned so much about, and that's how I lived the rest of my life, the discipline that I had to do things. It's like, I look back at when I set this up, and it had a lot to do about my time in the Marine Corps. I developed this formula when I started, and I lived by it for 14 years. Meaningful purpose plus commitment plus persistence equals success. And if you read it, that's the Marine Corps. Meaningful purpose, commitment, and definitely persistence equals success.
Right. So you are trying to reach out to young people as well?
Yeah, I spoke to 12 different groups out in San Diego. I happened to be fortunate to speak at the UCSD, and it's a very big marketing. There were 11 speakers, and they asked me to come in to speak, to be the motivational speaker. And I like to talk to the younger people and basically talk about meaningful purpose. And I especially the college students, and meaningful purpose isn't going out and getting drunk this weekend. And meaningful purpose isn't graduating and buying a BMW, because that's all about you.
Right.
And meaningful purpose is about somebody else, and it's a period of years. It's about 10 years. Well, I happened to speak at the UCSD, and most of the best students were foreign students, and most of them had a free pass. They got their education for nothing. So after my speech, I asked them, how many of you would like to go back to your country and give something back so somebody else could have a chance like you did, either teach or do something, give back to your country? Only one person raised a hand,
Wow.
And a young lady, and she was definite. She said, I'm definitely going to go back. I don't know whether I'll give 10 years, but I know I'll give a minimum of 2 years to teach. And I asked some of the other young guys, and they said, well, I got this great offer. I'm going to be making a lot of money. And another one, hey, I want to buy a BMW. So they still haven't found out, what it's all about. But eventually they will. And I don't believe age is, I started at 63. So on meaningful purpose. And everybody said, oh, the high school kids are too, no, they're not too young. I mean, for them to think out, not about going to college or, anything like that. It's about, there are so many people out there. I mean, to line yourself to help somebody else over a 10-year period. I mean, you can still go to school. I mean, and you get so much more out of it. That's what I try to tell the young people. I have my health because of this. I mean, if I didn't do what I did, I wouldn't have the health. But I got so much more. I have basically what I tell people, I have a can-do-anything attitude.
Right, which is a nice...
Because after 14 years, I had the opportunity to make new friends from all over the world.
Yeah, by committing to this particular
Oh
charity.
yeah, yeah, and I got to meet so many wonderful people, and some of them I still get emails from. So, I got more. And I keep telling them, you'll get more back than what you put in. And it isn't about money, I mean, I'll eventually, make my money back with my businesses, but it was never about money.
So what is a business that you're trying to start now?
Well, right now I'm trying to set up the motivational speaking business, and I go out and speak for free, okay? But at some point, hopefully somebody will say, hey, let's give this guy some money, come and speak, So I do that, and if I can get anybody interested beyond, if I can inspire anybody, then it's worth it, okay? And by doing that, I think I can go out and do the other aspect of my business, which is being like a consultant to nonprofit organizations and showing them what a successful charity is.
Okay. Let me switch gears with you to
Sure.
sort of some general knowledge about marathoning, if you would. As you get older and you go from 60 to 70, the food requirements change, right? Your body needs a different kind of food. Tell us a little bit about any research you did or any thoughts you have about how did you start to eat differently to service your body so that it could service you?
Well, when I started, I weighed 180-something pounds. I'm only 5'5.5", okay? And when I stood up, I couldn't see my toes because I had a gut. Okay.
I don't think we want to do this experiment.
So anyways, I was overweight. My blood pressure was out. And I started to look at, after I did the Marine Corps Marathon, I did Dublin. And Dublin, I had pneumonia. I didn't realize it when I was running. But when I got home, I said, Jesus, my body, every bone ached. I says, something's wrong here. Either, I have to do something or I'm not going to make this, and I'm not about to fail,
Right.
So I looked at everything I was eating. I was eating the potato chips and all the garbage food, and I was eating all kinds of white bread. And then when I found out I was a type 2 diabetic, I switched over to whole wheat, and I needed my carbohydrates, but I sort of limited them. So I started really watching, and I ate a lot more fruit and vegetables than I did before. And when I moved out to San Diego, I would always go out to the Sunday brunches, all you can eat type of thing. So I stopped that, okay?
Yes.
And I got in a really good regimen. I tried not to eat the goos that they have when you run.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're nothing but sugar.
Right.
And I found that out, you have one and then an hour later, I got to have another one. Your brain is saying. So I sort of walked away from that. I drank a lot of water. And so I just watched, and I didn't eat a lot of food, but I ate a lot at one sitting, but I ate a lot of food during the day. So I was able to do that. And plus my training, the running and the training, I would do different type of training every week. I'd run hills, I'd do runs, and by doing that. But the thing is that I didn't have a coach, and I would have done much better. My goal when I set out was to finish every marathon and do it in a respectable time for my age, okay? And my best time was 4:02. So so I doing the training, I would find that I would get fatigued, and that's when I started looking at what I ate. And at one point, I became a fanatic. I was writing down everything I ate all day, But that was driving me crazy,
Yeah.
And so I met some runners who were nutritionists who helped out, And
Right.
so over the years, I really understood, that I needed certain types of food and I had to stay away from. But the worst.
So what are those types? That's what I think anybody who's running now wants to hear. Successful marathoner, certainly at an advanced age, whether we call it a number or not. We're not spring chickens now. So for you to be successful, what were you eating?
Well, I had to, a lot of people don't like eggs, but eggs gave me my protein. I'd have a couple eggs in the morning. I'd eat oatmeal, okay? I'd maybe have a slice of whole wheat toast, okay? Once a week, I would have pasta, but it would be whole wheat, and it would be limited, okay? I ate turkey breast, okay? And I stayed away from red meat. I didn't. Okay. Everybody have different ideas, but I stayed away from red meat. So I was able to keep my body fueled by eating more vegetables and more fruit than I did before I started. And I would, a lot of people don't do this, but I would weigh myself every day, every morning. And like I said, I was a fanatic, and I'd write down everything. But in a way that helped me, because I didn't have to do it after a while. I know, when I went out and I didn't drink. I didn't drink. I didn't have alcohol, and I'd have maybe a glass of wine. But when I traveled, I'd have each country I tried their wine. But one marathon I lapsed away from the wine. We did a Napa Valley Marathon out in Napa, and a friend, the group I went with, rented a van, so we hit all of the vineyards, all of the wineries.
So it seems to me that a Napa Valley Marathon is like an invitation to trouble.
Oh yeah, and it was for me. I mean, I'm not a drinker, and we had a glass at every one. So we came back to the hotel, and everybody wanted to go out to eat.
Before the marathon, you had a glass?
The day before.
Oh,
and you're not supposed to do that.
This is a horrible idea.
Yeah, and I tell people, don't drink before. And so I got back, and everyone went out to eat, and I said, no, I got to go up to sleep. And next morning I woke up. I'm laying in bed. I had all my clothes on, my shoes. There wasn't a wrinkle in the bed. So I got up, took a shower. We went. The race started. I did a 4:02. The best time I've ever, and I almost broke 4.
Wow.
But you don't want to do that. You just don't want to.
Was the wind conditions perfect? I mean, what would
it was raining and everything, and I just had a, at that point in time, I changed how I ran marathons. Before I would focus on the last 26.2 miles. And then I decided, what I want to do is break it into segments, 10K segments, every 6.2 miles. And what I did was, for that marathon, I had, for the first 10K, I said, here's the pace I want to run. When I reach that 10K, here's the time I want. So I didn't go out very fast, okay? I went out gradually increasing my speed, so I still had it. So it worked fantastic, I mean, you had
a lot in the tank as a result.
Yeah, and the only reason I fouled up because halfway through I sort of slowed down a bit, and if I didn't, I would have broken 4.
Okay, is that a regret?
Yeah, because when I set out, I had a goal of marathons to break 4 hours. I had a goal of half marathons to run every half marathon 2 hours or less. And I did 11, and they were all 2 hours or less. And my best time was 1:47.
Wow.
And the 10K, I wanted to do something like an 8:15, and the 5K. So I met all of my goals except for the marathon. And I could have met that, but I didn't, So it's a regret.
That's small. We have a few small regrets. That's okay.
Yeah.
Now, marathoners, people who run races often get favorite sneakers. And they usually say, well, they're worn out by this many miles. What was the situation with you?
When I first started running, people would tell me that. And I'd look at the sneakers and I'd say, hey, guys, there's nothing wrong with these things. Yeah. They're not falling apart or anything. But what happens is they break down. Okay. And so if you did the math, I did, say, 52 weeks, 30, that's 1,500 miles.
Okay.
And so, on average. And so what they tell you is 500 miles.
400 or 500, okay.
Yeah. And so I was, I found out, because my feet really started bothering me, as a type 2 diabetic, you got to watch the blood flow to your feet. And so I couldn't figure it out. And then somebody said, how long have you been running with these? And I said, well, about 6 months.
Yeah. About 700 miles over the tolerance of the sneaker.
And I said, they look great. And he said, no, they're broken down. So then I finally did that, and it made a huge difference on just the fact that the running and the shoe didn't break down. So the shoe I wore was the ASIC,
Right.
and I wore that for a number of years. They eventually became my sponsor, and so these were $100 a piece,
Right.
So and I was buying 4, and so they gave me, I think it was 2 or 3 every year, and so I was able to start doing what you should be doing. And what I ended up doing was getting 2 of the same type, and I'd rotate them every week. So you would get more out of the shoe.
More out of
so
2
you
than you
learn,
would out
yeah,
of 1.
you learn these things,
Right.
So I was able to do that.
Okay, and how would you tell, a friend of mine said he used to put a mark, he would mark all the way around his sneakers with a magic marker. And every time he did 5 miles, he would cross a mark off. So that at the end of a 10-mile race, he'd come in and make 2 marks on the sneaker. So that's how he knew he had reached 400 miles and he wanted to throw the sneakers.
Well, I did it a little differently. I knew how many miles I ran every year, and I kept it on my computer.
Oh, okay.
So, matter of fact, I have it on my Dropbox. The miles that I ran every year, okay, for 14 years. And so I got the information that says I did do 24,902. And when I got out to San Diego, the weather was so good you could run it. And I would run the days I say I would run. And I knew how many miles they were. So at the end of the week, I knew.
Right.
I did 30-something miles. And at the end of the week, I would change shoes.
Okay.
So I knew, and I put on the inside of the tongue 1 or 2. So I knew, and I would put that I ran 30 miles with 1.
Yep.
The next week I do. I mean, it's a little fanatical, but
No, but you want to be able to.
But I would
in
never.
order to do this, you have to be a little fanatical, right?
Yeah, if I would never have done 24,000 if I hadn't really watched what I was doing.
Right. Good. So you have a T-shirt here. Tell us about the T-shirt.
Well, this is my design, and on the top you can see I did a cartoon runner, and that cartoon runner was with me for 14 years. Okay, and on the globe that's running, and you can see I'm running around the world.
All the way around, yeah.
Yeah, and on the circle you can see all of the countries. And it's.
Well, we have the green color, which is the audience can see right now. Whenever we have green, it creates a see-through image. It's really exciting. If you look at the picture,
Oh yeah, okay.
the green is interesting. So those areas where it's almost see-through, those are your continents.
Yeah.
So this probably is something we want to.
Yeah, and
move
so
to the
worldwide.
next exhibit. But
Yeah, and on the back, these are all of my sponsors.
Oh, great.
These are people who didn't give me money.
Can you read them off though?
Oh yeah, Beth Israel. Cross Sport was, and then this Solar Luna Cafe was a cafe that I would go to have a cup of coffee in San Diego. Wonderful people.
Yeah.
Metacept is my son-in-law's company.
Okay.
And Riggs Creative Group was the first designer of my website. National Franchise is a young lady who does my taxes, and I helped her. And then there's Wigwam Mills, and they make the socks. And wonderful people. I called them one day and I said, would you sponsor me? And she said, oh yeah, great story. So a week and a half later, I get a box, 13 pairs of socks.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
1 per month plus an extra.
Yeah, and on my 75th birthday, they sent me a box of all kinds of stuff.
Oh.
Well, the last year I called them up and I said, you know what? There's some good things and bad things I want to talk about. And she said, well, what's the good thing?
Yeah.
Your socks never wear out. She said, well, what's the bad thing? Your socks never wear out. So, and then runners.
Now that's what you want to sponsor someone for, to say something like that. That's great.
Roadrunner Sports.
Yeah.
They were the first person that ever they sponsored. And they're huge. They're all over. They're in about 7 different states.
Wow.
And they gave me money for gear. And then ASICS gave me the shoes.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Yeah.
So these are great T-shirts.
Yeah.
And you've got a few other things to show us. So.
Well, what this is, do you got it?
These are each of the marathons?
Yeah.
Is that what I'm going to suggest, I think?
Yeah. What this is photos I took of the 14 countries, and the date, the year that I did them, and in the blue around the corner are the 7 continents. And you can see on the upper left-hand corner is North America, and then there's Australia. I did Sydney, Australia in 2006, and then Bangkok, Thailand, Asia, and then Buenos Aires, Argentina for South America, and then Berlin for Germany, and then Cape Town, South Africa for Africa, and then the 7th and final continent is Antarctica.
And these the United States, of course.
Yeah, and
North America.
Yeah, that's what the first one.
Yep.
And these are all of the countries. And what I made this into was a special thank you card I'd send out to people, and then I put it on the bottom. I'd write a little note. So this is, people can see these are all sanctioned marathons, and my times are all on the internet. So.
Wow.
And
now, did I hear that you were in the Guinness Book of World Records?
Yeah, and there's a really interesting story.
Tell us about the Guinness Book of World Records.
You know, and like I tell people, this is really great, but this and 20 cents gets you a cup of coffee at Starbucks. You know, so
this and 20 cents, not at Starbucks.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. But you know, I don't drink Starbucks.
Okay.
You know, but anyways, there's an interesting story. I finished the Antarctica Marathon in 2011, and I was 74 at the time, and I was the oldest male to finish the marathon at that group. And what's really interesting, another interesting part, was I finished it on February 28th, 2011. My brother John died February 27th, 1999. And if you do the math, and somebody did on the boat, there is a certain point of the marathon that I was running on his anniversary of his passing. And you don't make these things up, and these things don't happen. It was also the birthday of a nephew I had who died at a young age. So, but anyways, so I finished it, never thought anything of it because it was just another thing on my bucket list.
Yep.
And so on February 2013, I'm getting ready to move back to the Boston area. And a friend of mine who's a runner wanted to do the 7 continents. So he wanted to know the countries that I did. He had already done, I guess, Europe, US, and Asia, and he wanted to know the others. So as we were talking, he mentioned to me, he says, you know, Bob, there's a Guinness World Record for the oldest male to finish a marathon on all 7 continents. He says, I don't know what the age is, but you might want to look into it because you're 74. So I'm moving back to Boston, and I got a to-do list a mile long, you know, finding doctors. I mean, really important thing. And this was not on my radar because I didn't, if I had set out to do it, it would have been on my radar, but it meant nothing. So I put it on the bottom of my to-do list. October of 2013, I look at my to-do list, and there it is. So I figured, well, what the heck, I'll call Guinness World Record book in Boston, in New York. So I called up, and it was a young girl, and she just started there, so she didn't know what the record was. But she said, I'll send you the paperwork. So she sent me the paperwork. It took me a week and a half to fill it out because I had to prove that not only did I get a medal, but I had to go online and my name and my time, and it had to be before, you know, under the cut that it was on there. And so I had to prove that. Then I had my birth certificate and all kinds of. So I sent,
verifiable.
Yeah. So I sent it all in. Never thought anything of it. 3rd week of February, almost 3 years from the time that I finished the Antarctica, I open it up and it says, "Congratulations, you are the new world record holder of the Guinness World Record of the oldest male." So I mean,
isn't that great though?
You know, it was a great story, but it was almost 3 years from the day I unknowingly set the record. Now, if I didn't have coffee with this guy, I never would have gone after this. Why would I do it?
And so we can look it up, and you're in there.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be in the book until next year. It takes a while, but if you go on there, you can, you look for the oldest male, and you can see my name, Robert Rebello, and it gives a little write-up as to why I did it.
Right. And who was the person, or the age of the person before you?
I don't know who it was, but I think he was 71. But you know what? People run, you know, every record is made to be broken, okay? And,
okay.
So The other thing I'd like to show you is, I did the Medoc Marathon,
Okay.
and that's in
Medoc is in
France.
in France.
And they have some great vineyards and great wine there. And what it is, it's limited to about 6,000 runners, and it's sold out every year. It's probably more popular than New York Marathon, and everybody dressed up in costumes. And
Okay.
and it's a fun, and they put on their website, if you're coming here to do your best time, don't come.
Don't go.
This is a fun marathon. It's all about comrades and and issues like that. And the winners, the male and female winners, don't get money. They get their weight in the best wine of the Medoc region.
Wow.
So
what an interesting story.
yeah, and it's and before the race, they have a contest for the best costume, and people would stand up on a little chair that they have there, and everybody in the runners would vote, and they sometimes thumbs down, but then they would pick the winner. Matter of fact, the ones that are on this were from Cincinnati. Okay, on the cover. But if you there's in here, there's all kinds of photos and everything. They had something like 22 wine stops where you could actually taste the wine
During the race?
Yeah.
Another prescription for disaster.
Yeah, but anyway, it's a fun marathon, and
Yeah.
people, they wouldn't use plastic. They had stemware.
So this one was like your cheat marathon. You say, well, I know marathons are hard, but I'm going to have a fun one.
No, I still set out I did a 4:30 something,
Yeah.
I think. And I set out to do a respectable. I didn't drink any of the wine. Really funny one.
Wouldn't have wanted to.
Yeah, and they had oysters. They had every kind of food you could think of. They had
On-
beans.
Instead
beans.
of the oranges and bananas, it was oysters and wine.
And you're running through the vineyards, and and it's just a unique marathon. And there was one portion of the race where I was running down one of the paths in the vineyards,
Yes.
and I happened to see this guy, and he's bent down, and he looks like he was in trouble. So there wasn't anybody else around, so I yelled to him. I said, "Hey, are you okay? You okay? I'll help you." Nothing. I got closer, I yelled again, nothing. So finally I got basically on top of him. I said, "Are you okay?" All of a sudden the guy turns around, looks up, he's got a glass of wine in his hand, he's drunk.
Oh, his had been running.
He's drunk. And to this day, I'm wondering, did this guy finish this race?
Yeah.
But anyways, my goal was to finish, and I did that, and I didn't. And then after my daughter was with me, and after the race, we flew down to Barcelona, Spain.
Okay.
And we were on there September 11th.
Oh.
We got there, and I could still remember this. A young man come up to my daughter, and I thought he was trying to hit on her, and all of a sudden my daughter said, "Dad, we got to go." We went into one of the bistros, and they had it on TV, and you could see it falling down, and everybody was crying, and and it was really terrible. And all of a sudden this guy comes in, and he's yelling, "Is it true?" And everybody said, "Yeah," and you can see it. His wife was in the building. So here he is in Barcelona, Spain. But the hotel we stayed in gave a personal note to every one of the Americans. They were asking whatever they could do, but we were able to fly back directly, so. But,
Wow.
So that was one of the
Yeah, I think
experiences.
everybody remembers where they were.
Yeah, so that
at
was one of the
9/11,
experiences, yeah. So,
Yeah, tough scenario there.
yeah.
So switching gears to like what might almost be the opposite of that is people with a purpose that are hell-bent on destruction. You're really advocating for people to have a purpose that is
Meaningful.
meaningful in life, right? What do you mean when you say the word meaningful?
Well, it's something that is beyond you. I mean, when I committed to remember my brother, I did it in a way that I was going to bring awareness to kidney cancer around the world. I was going to have an impact on kidney cancer, which one person, and people say, "Oh, you can't," and I did, and also to raise money for the research,
Right.
and enough that would have an impact, okay, on their research. But at the same point in time, I did it in a way that I wanted 100% of the money to get there. So,
Which is good, yeah.
so that people wouldn't worry about me having to pay my, using some of the money to pay my airfare, my hotel, or stuff like that. But it's, everybody, like your life's meaningful purpose is different than mine, but you have one. Everybody has one. And I meet a lot of these young people. I meet a lot of young people in Boston from foreign countries, and I met this young guy, and he's from Turkey, and he was really looking into this. He wanted to bring some meaningful purpose to his life, and he was tossing it around. I said, well, you're from Turkey. I mean, there's so many people in Turkey that need, why, go off and set a goal to, maybe raise enough money to send some kid to college, or, and do it, and if everybody did that, and it, again, meaningful is beyond you, it's beyond me. It's not about me. Never has been. And so when you do something meaningful, when you're done, it has an impact. It's just, think about it, it's not a lot of money, 102,000 in the scheme of things. People raised millions. But every penny went there, and every penny was accounted for. So you can have an impact if you want to do that. I don't know whether a lot of people would do what I did, to use their IRA.
Yeah.
If you're married, you can't do that. I was single,
Yeah.
So, if I can get, and it's like the students I told you about in San Diego,
Right.
From a foreign country, go back and give back. You got this fantastic opportunity. Go back and help somebody else. It doesn't have to be 10 years, but it should be more than 2,
And I think that's the beauty of your message, really, is that to step out of your own life to help others.
Yeah.
Which I think is great. So I'm going to come back to you, but I'm going to cue into my director here in the background. And I think it's Roy or Gina. And I want to say thank you to Roy Cohen. Thank you to Leo, who's out in the camera work, and Gina also. I wonder if you could roll the credits so we can give a bit of credit to our sponsors and people doing similar good things in the community. So that'll.
Hi, it's Gary LaPierre, and the crew wants to thank Maxie's Delicatessen. That's at 117 Sharon Street in Stoughton. They're 781-341-1662. American Cancer Society, yes, they're looking for volunteers. Drive cancer patients to and from their treatments. 1-800-ACS-6662, or just go to www.cancer.org. Ilsa Mark's Food Pantry in St. Anthony's Free Market, 2 Park Avenue in Stoughton. For more information, call Christine Gallagher. That's at 781-341-0611 or 781-341-0549. Meals on Wheels. Just ask for Jessica. You'll find her at 781-344-8882, extension 2. Stoughton Penny Saver. Our business is advertising your business, they tell us. 27 Rose Glen Street, Stoughton, 781-344-4833. Community Forum showtimes in Stoughton. It's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at 6 p.m., Monday at 8 p.m., Tuesday at 5 p.m. It's on Comcast Channel 9 and Verizon Channel 28. All comments and suggestions welcome. Contact us at communityforum1@yahoo.com. Community Forum showtimes in Easton. Mondays at 9 p.m., Tuesday at 8 a.m., Wednesdays 3 p.m., Saturday 10 a.m. And that too, Comcast Channel 9, Verizon Channel 22. Samaritans, they're at 41 West Street on the 4th floor in Boston, 02111. Their phone number is 617-536-2460. 24-hour helplines for Samaritans, and the number is 877-870-HOPE. That's 877-870-4673. Samaritans, you can find them at 800-252-TEEN. That's 252-8336. Or find them online at SamaritansHope.org.
And we'd also like to make you aware of what Maxie's is doing. We have these beautiful cups, and if you make a $20 donation at Maxie's Delicatessen in the Mugs for Life project, it will support the Sumner M. Redstone Burn Center at Mass General Hospital. It's a wonderful way to help people that have had, just awful luck, let's call it that. And 100% of your funds, the $20 entirely, will go to the purchase of equipment, services, and education for patients and families. So that's another great thing of meaningful purpose. And we also want to remind you of Stoughton's annual election, Tuesday, April 7th, 2015. The polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. You can watch live election results on SMAC at 8:30 p.m. with Jeff Pickett. And actually, it's going to be on Comcast Channel 9, Verizon Channel 28. And Leo's tip of the week: beware of long-term parking. For those of you who park at airports for 4 or 5 days, we want to remind you that thieves have been known to break into your vehicles, and not so much to get your vehicle, but to get your information, access your registration, insurance information, and perhaps even obtain your home address. At this point, they can drive their own car over to your house, or your car, as it could be. So if you do this and you utilize long-term parking, is a bit of a reminder to not leave your registration and insurance card or even your remote garage door opener inside. That would certainly be a bad trick. So we just want to give you a little tip that something like that would get you a little bit ahead of the game. And then I wanted to show you, and Bob, would you, we're back with Bob Rebello, who's a elder, let's call him elder. Not anyone like that. We're going to call him a young marathoner of 70 plus years.
78.
Yeah, 78 now, who's done many, many marathons. Bob, on screen we have your card, which relates to your message, and I wonder if you could share, tell us about this card.
Well, when I set this up, I wanted to track what I did, and I wanted it to be personal. So I made this piece of paper up, and it had my meaningful purpose on it, and it had every one of the 5 commitments and what they were. And at the end of every year, I would update the commitments, and I would put it back in my wallet. So, and I still, to this day, have, I believe I have the...
Perhaps the original one?
Let's see here, it's in here somewhere.
So we're rummaging through our wallet here on screen. But,
No, well, anyways, I carried it around with me, and it would wear out after about 5 years. So then I come up with a new one. And then I have one in front of my desk every day, and I would always know where I was, okay, on my commitments. And so when I got it done, I wanted people to carry that same thing on.
Right.
So what I did was I designed that card, and on one side, I asked them to write their meaningful purpose, okay? It had to be specific, it had to be something that was long-term, and then they had to write the commitments, okay? Each one of the commitments that they've made to that meaningful purpose. And one of the ways I did this thing was that once I made my meaningful purpose and I listed those 5 commitments, one of the things I did, everybody I met, I told them what my commitments were in 1999. Okay. And by default, I am committed, because everybody knows.
And they'd ask you, how you doing?
Yeah, so anyways,
on your goal, yeah.
So I made this card up, and I wanted to do it in a way that would always remind them, and they could carry it in their wallet. And it's, I had it made up, and I think they look professional, and you can put it in your wallet. And I put this cartoon, I do cartoons, of my old drill instructor in Paris Island when I was in the Marine Corps. Yep. And let me tell you, he was a tough dude. And when he said something, you listened. So on the back of the card, I put, okay, make my day.
Right, and here's the card again showing.
Yeah.
So if you're in the audience and you have latched on, if you would, to Bob's ideas of how you can do a little better in life, what he's suggesting is that he'll give you one of these cards, and you could write down, here's what I want to accomplish, and then the commitments that I'll make to get that done. And by writing them down, having them with you, it's a great way to remind yourself and to be more successful. And I think you have a little a guideline to success, and I think it was like a 4-step. What was it? Meaningful purpose and commitment?
Yeah, it's a formula that I developed when I started. I felt that I had to have something that I would measure myself by and I would follow. And it was meaningful purpose plus commitment plus persistence equals success. And,
Right.
you know, you make the commitment. Here's your meaningful purpose. You make your commitments. And then you absolutely, and you could see from 14 years, you have to be persistent. If you're not persistent, you will not finish.
Right.
Okay? And then success. And so basically that's what Marine Corps does. You know, and that's something that I had with me for 14. I still have it. Okay?
Right. So what's up next for Bob Rebello?
Well, I wanted to do a triathlon when I was out in San Diego, but when I was training, I almost got killed twice, and I said, whoop, forget that. And, you know, so my next step is, and my daughter won't let me ride a bike in Boston, so that's out of the question. So, you know, I'm gonna have a senior moment or whatever. But, so my next step is I'd like to celebrate my 80th birthday next year and do a duathlon, which is swim and run. So,
Okay.
Swim and bike rather, but so I can't run. I mean, I hope to do sometime this year a 5K, a 10K, and a half marathon.
Right.
So, but next year it's to do the duathlon. Now, whether I do it here or, you know, I go out to San Diego and do it, but I really like to do that. And the objective is to finish, and and I think I'll do that. So, no, I believe I'll do that. So.
Yeah, so that you just have this mindset that says, here's something that's worthwhile doing, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna move in that direction.
Yeah, and right now I'm looking to, I'm not going to raise money anymore.
Okay.
So that's out of the question. You know.
Right.
I told people when I started, when it's over, it's over. It ended at 2012, December 31st, midnight. But what I would like to do, I'm looking right now for a charity that I could go out and speak for.
All right.
Okay, and that's what I'm looking, and I haven't found it yet, so.
Well, I hope you do, and I want to close the show by saying thank you very much for coming on. I also want to thank the people that are behind the scenes, Leo McGowan, who's our wonderful camera guy, Roy Cohen, who's our producer, Gina, who is either an executive or an assistant producer, I'm not really sure, Gina Coe, and we also want to thank you all for watching and appreciate that you've tuned in to SMAC. Hope you have a great day.